Well, howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making another video for you out of Boise, Idaho. Today I'm working on actually 3 different cars. I'm on the downside of the Lexus. I have an air pump to replace on this VW, and right now I am rounding the corner on the 1994 Chevy Corsica with a 3100 3.1 liter engine. This is the one that was overheating, and so we are replacing the water pump, the thermostat, and then also the belt and the belt tensioner. We're also replacing that as well. So I just wanted to stop for a moment though and show you some tips and tricks here. So Chevy, in order to get to the thermostat, which you can see sits basically behind the exhaust crossover pipe, and what normally sits right here is your throttle body. So there's a lot to disconnect here, and to get down to it, no matter what, you have to disconnect and remove your throttle body. And so from there though, Chevy or GM will instruct you to go ahead and remove the shielding for the exhaust pipe, and then also to remove the exhaust crossover pipe itself. And so that, and they tell you to do that so you can get down in here to this bottom bolt down in here. You see right here the distance there. But I just want to tell you that if you're a little tedious about it, okay, you do not have to remove this crossover pipe. And I'm going to tell you the problems that I've ran into in the past. When I work on these vehicles, like this Chevy Corsica or like a Malibu or something that has a 3100 engine in it, nowadays they come to me with a lot of miles on them. And I've been here and done this before, where I went ahead and followed the book procedure, and I removed this shielding and this crossover pipe, and because they're old and rusted, I broke every single bolt trying to get that disconnected and out of there. And a job that should only take about half a day ends up taking days on end while you drill and tap out bolts and get new bolts and stuff like that. So I finally decided one day that I was going to see if I could get in there with a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter wrench down in there. And I'm here to tell you that if you're a little tedious about it, you can definitely get down in there with a wrench, box end, open end wrench, and you can finagle that bolt out of there. What you'll need to do though is you'll need to go ahead and at your water pump, disconnect your plumbing and pull it out so you got some leeway. Disconnect the 13 millimeter bolt that holds it here, and that's going to allow you to pull this back and out of the way. And you're going to have to do this anyway to remove your throttle body. And then once you're able to play with this a little bit, now you can get a wrench right down inside of here, and you can get your hand down in here like this, and you can pull up on that wrench, and you can work that 13 millimeter bolt out. It may take you 20 minutes because of the limited amount of space and stuff to get that bolt out, but trust me, I personally and professionally, I'd rather spend 20 minutes trying to get one bolt out than spend a whole day having to re-drill out, having to drill out little 10 millimeter bolts out of the exhaust crossover pipe and shielding and stuff, and having to fix all that. So there's one tip and trick on the 3100. And then also, while I have the thermostats out, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I test them. Now, somebody had mentioned that what you could do when you're doing diagnosis is you can put a balloon over your reservoir, or you can do a pressure test to see if a head gasket is blown on it. The only catch with going straight to a pressure test before you've been through a cooling system is, when it comes to a pressurized system like the cooling system, it's only as strong as its weakest link. So I've seen people get in situations before where they went straight to a pressure test saw that, oh, I don't hold any pressure, I must have a blown head gasket. So then they go change the head gasket. They put everything back together. They didn't change the water pump. And next thing you know, they still have a leak because the leak was at the water pump and at the head gasket. But the water pump comes before the head gasket. So, you know, again, system is only as strong as its weakest link. So when I do pressure tests and I see that a system won't hold pressure, what I'll do is I'll do visual inspections of everything. Again, I've seen people replace head gaskets and it turned out to be a leaky radiator simply because a technician in a shop just overlooked it, didn't visually go through it and check it out, overlooked it. And so, you know, that's how it goes. And so when I did the pressure test, obviously the thermostat has been leaking for a long time. Actually, it's been leaking for a while. When I show it to you, you'll agree that, wow, that gasket is pretty much flat and gone. So the thermostat was leaking and the water pump was not spinning, nor was it turning correctly, both because the shaft and the bearings are beginning to go out, and also because the belt tensioner is not working correctly, and nothing on this vehicle was spinning or turning as fast or as hard as it should be. So there you go right there. So what I'm going to show you next now, sorry about that, guys, kiddos tugging on my legs here. So yeah, what I'm going to show you next now that you know you don't have to pull this crossover pipe, is I'm going to show you while it's out just how I test a thermostat. Alright, so here we are with old and new thermostat, and look at the difference in the two gaskets there. This is the old one and this is the new one. I mean, this gasket is pretty much gone. It's hardened. It's hard and brittle, first of all. If I were to pull that off of there, it's going to break. And it's just completely flattened out. No wonder why it was leaking out of there. So let's go ahead and drop this thermostat in some boiling water. And that's how, if you ever question whether or not your thermostat is working correctly, all you got to do, in most cases on most vehicles, a thermostat is nothing more than 2 bolts. All you got to do is remove the housing, remove the thermostat, and then drop it in some boiling water to see if it opens and closes. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so we got some boiling water here in our thermostat, and you can see it's closed. Now remember, this gasket's no good on here. This is the original one with the bad gasket. This is the one that was leaking. So we're going to dip that in the boiling water. Hold it there for a few minutes. It looks like it already opened, I think. Nope. Okay, so that thermostat, yep, there it is. It's open now. So you can see it there. It's open. There you go. I just had to get the right angle. So it's open and it's good. Now, matter of fact, it's closing. It's now closed again. Let's see if it'll open again. There it goes. And it is open. And we'll sit here and we'll watch it close. And it's closing. And there it goes. So it's closing. And we're going to do this one more time just for fun. Alright, here we go. Let's pull it. And again, it's open. And as it cools off, it should slowly close. There you go. Alright. Now that I got the other one installed, as you can see, like I said, this gasket has just had it. You can see the cracks. So the thermostat was good. Gasket was bad and leaking. So that's where one of our leaks was coming from. The only leak that I know so far was coming from this. And then our water pump was no good. But before we take a look at the difference in a new and a old water pump, I want to show you something. Now that I got this back together. Again, the proper procedure, according to the factory and the book, is to remove these two exhaust shield bolts and the ones in the back down behind in here, and then remove this crossover pipe so you can have a straight access shot to the bolt that's underneath here. Alright, but if you're just a little patient, you can get a wrench on there. Alright, and there's, as you can see, there's not much room, and there's not much swing room. I'm gonna just torque this one down. Okay, but if you're just patient with it, you can get that off without taking off this exhaust crossover pipe. And I've been here and done this before, where I've taken these exhaust crossover pipes off and had bolts break, and it's already bad enough that GM decided to put this thing here. So, you know, I trust me, you won't be having a good couple of days if you try to pull this exhaust crossover pipe off and all those bolts break and you got to replace them. It won't be fun at all for you. So there you go on that. Now let's go take a look at the water pumps real quick before I let everybody go here. Okay, so I'm only one man here, and I think I do need to try to invest in a camera stand, maybe even a new camera. We'll see. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. So I'm gonna try to do this the best I can. This is the water pump that in the previous video was spinning freely and was wobbling and was whining a little bit. This is a brand new one. So I'm gonna hold. All right, here's your impeller and all that. And it doesn't look necessarily bad, okay? But I'm gonna hold this right here like this, and I'm gonna just give this a flick. Okay, you see how that spins like that? As a matter of fact, you might even be able to hear it whine. Okay, there's no resistance in those bearings whatsoever. Alright, it just spins. Okay, now here's a new one. And watch how this spins when I give it a flick. Okay, even with a good flick, best I can get it to go is a quarter turn. Watch. See? Okay, whereas this one, I can get it to go a full turn. See? Full turn. This one. Alright, and that's because the bearings inside of here are loose. Now, if a water pump turns with no resistance, it can't properly push. Oh, wow, you can really hear this thing. Okay, that's because the bearings in that shaft in there are going bad. And if there's no resistance, then a water pump cannot properly push the coolant through the system, and it'll cause you to overheat and do all kinds of other stuff. Also, if you have a water pump that's mounted on the outside of the engine, like on this 3100, and you've got a belt tensioner that's not working correctly and a belt that's not working correctly, that too could be your culprit. So there's a cool tip and trick there to get through changing out that thermostat, and there's some cool information about a water pump. I'm going to go ahead and start moving forward and get this job back together and on the road. I appreciate everybody coming out and watching my videos and hanging out. Thanks for your support. This is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off.